joined by Tony Hamilton, Chief Executive of Georgina Energy. Tony, thanks for coming on. How are you doing today? It sounds like it's a busy time for the business.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Yeah, it's an exceedingly busy time for us at the moment.
Excellent. So let's start with the news last week that you've executed an agreement with Central Petroleum to get exposure to 3 new exploration targets in the Amadeus Basin. First, can you tell us a bit about the opportunity here? Why are you so keen to get exposure to these new assets?
Primarily, we've been working on this since March of this year. And in fact, in the variety of announcements we've made over the years with regard to references about high helium and hydrogen contents and various measures for Hussar and Mount Winter, we've often referred to these particular assets, in fact, which were owned by Central Petroleum. So we basically, when we realised that there was a potential for them to become available to us, we basically commissioned a report, I think March of this year, and we did a detailed assessment of all the technical data, and we decided that it was something that would complement Hussar and Mount Winter.
Cool. So they were the benchmark assets, and now you've got the opportunity to take them on for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what we've done is we've entered into an agreement to acquire 3 companies, Helium Australia, Frontier Oil and Gas, and Ordev Petroleum, who are wholly owned subsidiaries of Central Petroleum. In the case of Helium, it holds Mount Kitty. In the case of Frontier, that holds Dukas. And in the case of Ordev, that holds McGee and Mailer. And essentially, the licenses are held 100% by those entities, and then they're subject to farming agreements with Santos, a rather well-known Australian oil and gas producer.
Absolutely. We'll get on to Santos in a second. I just wanted to ask also about that helium-3 potential. I understand that's particularly valuable.
Yeah, one of the key elements to this, aside from the fact that all 3 of them have been drilled, was that Mount Kitty in particular flowed 500,000 cubic feet of gas to surface, recorded over 9% helium, 11% hydrogen, and it also recorded the presence of He3. Now you're talking about parts per trillion, but in reality, the value of He3 is absolutely significant.
And why is it so valuable then?
Well, its applications are particularly in the space travel, high technology, computing, you name it. It's got a very, very high element component in some high technology applications, including military. So, and it's extremely rare. Right. And as I said, when you consider that the presence of it, we're talking parts per trillion. So in the case of Mount Kitty, you're talking about roughly 1,100 parts per trillion by comparison to some of the other companies that have encountered it at sort of 900 parts per trillion. So it's a reasonably high number, commensurate with the high helium and hydrogen yield numbers of the Amadeus Basin.
Okay, so will that He3 be the primary target, or is that sort of a nice thing to also have alongside the other helium that you'll be targeting?
The reality is that the primary target is helium, hydrogen and natural gas, and the He3 is a side benefit. Concentrations are so, as I said, parts per trillion, that the presence, yes, we will recover it, and the value is significant.
Great. So the licenses, like you say, are held in operating agreements with Santos. So can you tell us a bit about the benefits to Georgina of, having such a large Australian oil and gas player as a partner?
Well, essentially, Santos are a global energy company with operations across Australia, the US, Timor, and they're one of the most significant domestic gas suppliers in Australia. So they have an extremely good technical capability as well as a industrial capability and a completion capability. And that means that obviously for Georgina, we're now dealing with our peers. So that's a significant thing. And clearly from our perspective, the renewables element, particularly liquid and natural gas, and the helium and hydrogen elements, it's an important element for us. We're not necessarily focused on significance of natural gas. We are more focused on helium and hydrogen, which is more of a highly specialised and very focused element, probably outside Santos's core focus, which is liquefied natural gas.
Okay, cool. So, your expertise complements them and their expertise complements you as well.
Yeah, I think, look, we've got a very, very, very good relationship with Central Petroleum. One of our directors, John Hugh, was in fact the founding director and chairman of Central Petroleum back in the day. And so we have a fairly intimate knowledge of these assets. We've spent quite a lot of time under NDAs with access to the data room. Our technical team has spent a lot of time and effort reviewing it. And clearly from our perspective, these are extremely complementary assets which will give us another window into the helium, hydrogen and natural gas space.
Got it. And on the subject of Central Petroleum, post-deal, the idea is that they'll hold 25% of Georgina's issued share capital. So is the goal there to establish this strong working relationship moving into the future?
Absolutely. We've got an extremely good working relationship with Central Petroleum, and between our two technical teams, there will definitely be some crossover, and there's an exceeding value-added element to us by having access to both their database and their technical team.
Great. So in last week's RNS, you noted that the acquisition is conditional on a number of milestones, including a 7 million fundraise and the receipt of ministerial consent. Are you able to say anything on the progress you're making on these milestones and when we might be able to expect an update?
You probably missed out the most important part, which is a prospectus.
Sorry.
The prospectus was underway prior to this announcement, and our lawyers were working on this in consultation with all the various parties. We don't see the ministerial approval as an issue, and obviously we need to complete the prospectus, which is a short form, I believe, and is well advanced. The capital raising, we've certainly been in discussions with numerous parties about that, and clearly we also have the benefit of our offtake partners as well with a funding option.
Cool. So more to follow as and when that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, once we advance, so this has been a fairly significant work in progress, along with securing the drilling permit for Hussar. So all of these things have run in consultation with each other.
Definitely. So finally, I did also want to ask you about Hussar, because you received that formal drilling approval at the end of October. How are things progressing on the ground there?
Yeah, look, Hussar's been a process of patience, given that we originally had hoped to do it back in December of 24. Mother Nature had a hand in that. We had a hand in it ourselves in that the expanded resource area meant that we had to completely recalibrate the application and approval process. What we are doing at the moment is we're working on a complete overview of the infrastructure requirements, the access roads, the drilling, the pad, the airstrip. We're also looking at mobilising a drill rig, so we're in discussions with that. We're also obviously securing support equipment, simple things like casings for the drill. And then on top of that, we are also working with our native title partners to make sure that we meet all of our obligations there. This is a fairly detailed process, bearing in mind it's from our base, it's 3,000 kilometres away.
Okay.
But it is all underway.
Great, yeah, lots of different workflows then, so we can perhaps expect a number of updates, throughout the remainder of the year and into 2026.
Yeah, look, at this stage, I think as we said in some of our previous announcements, our offtake partners, we are actually in discussion with our offtake partners with regard to funding. So, and that's become an element because Harlequin provided a proof of funds, and they're working with Schlumberger, I believe, and similarly Halo, Penspen, and they're working as well. So we're in discussions and expect further announcements from Georgina fairly shortly.
Great. Well, thanks again, Tony, and looking forward to speaking again soon when Georgina next updates the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Daniel.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.